Let's talk about the thing. The Path of Exile 2 thing. With Path of Exile 2 launch officially past its 30 days or 1 month mark, your Twitter feed's been buzzing every couple of minutes with a new post about a bug, outplay, or someone new swapping over to their first ARPG stream, just to cover two titans in the gaming industry sharing clapbacks on Twitter. Hashtag still better than Diablo. Or should we say diabolical cash grab? The question is, why all the fuzz? The developers of Path of Exile 2 is Grinding Gear Games. Now, they started back in 2006 by a man of the name Chris Wilson. For my American friends, no, not the 28th president, but the president of Grinding Gear Games. Chris Wilson established the headquarters of Grinding Gear Games in Auckland, New Zealand. Like the Dutch explorer A.L. Tasman, who discovered the Maori, the gaming community found a gem in early access around about 2010. This gem being Path of Exile 1. By 2013, the game was officially released as a free-to-play ARPG with a dark genre as the main voice. This was molded after Diablo 2. Thanks to the pre-sales with supporter packs and crowdfunding, GGG managed to release their vision on this genre and the gaming industry alike. The world went wild. So much so, giants in the field like Tencent started to acquire the small studio from Auckland. With a raging, die-hard, loyal fan base that popped up almost spontaneously overnight, the developers from Grinding Gear Games knew they had hit the mark. Fans came streaming in, finally having found their place after the long-awaited sequel to Diablo 2. The undisputed rupture in the game community for the tragic release of Diablo 3, it was an open wound. Grinding Gear Games was the blood bank. But this seemingly perfect overnight success did not come without issues. During the next few years, the gaming industry was quickly invaded by radical freethinkers and cancel culture. So many publishers came under the fire from this radical new perspective that was invading the world of and upsetting the so-called established dictatorship or something like that. Look, lady, I came for the games, not politics, right? Chris Wilson, being the ever visionary he is, outright put a big and controversial statement out with actions to verify it. You can ask anyone in the PoE community about striking and raising their voices to be heard. The force Grinding Gear Games to appeal to their voice and opinion that literally funded their insanity campaign and allowed them to grow and become who they are. Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. And if you make trouble and cause issues for the people in the community, you can be excused permanently, right? Look, just to put some clarity, yes, outright telling people to essentially get fucked if they don't like what you developed or they developed is kind of badass. It does, however, carry over a little Stalin to the conversation. You know, Stalin these nuts. Okay, I'm joking. But it does sound a little like Joseph Stalin. Oh, you don't agree with what I say? KGB, I have a new director for you. That being said, he had the vision to understand he needed to protect his people. And he did. So many publishers went... They bent under pressure and conformed to these demands. And all of them ended up digging themselves a hole they are still stuck in today. More time is being spent on what gender the pixels represent instead of the quality of content. And that was something Chris Wilson was clearly not willing to pay his employees to do. You know what? Good for you. If I wanted real life, I would just deal with my emotional trauma. No script or game based on reality will ever have me tearing up more than reality itself. This is fantasy. Your politics have no space here. Chris Wilson ensured that their content continued to carry the voice of their story. A dark fantasy world that you will conquer, right? This not only cemented their place in the gaming industry, but their fans as well. This community of Path of Exile is probably the most die-hard loyalist you'll ever find, right? Think about this. Grinding Gear Games launched in 2010 to 2013. There was no investors sponsoring these companies. They went balls to the wall and sold their vision on a fantasy game to such an extent that people were like, yeah, you're going to do this for free, but you need to eat, so take my money. Okay? They are still using a free to play model today. One of the oldest games in the world still uses a paid subscription. Plus, you need to buy new expansions every time they release. Like, the balls on this guy. No, to this, this team is fucking massive. Like, if this was a porn industry, Johnny Sins would be blushing every time someone mentioned this guy's name. Okay, Path of Exile only grew from here. Every expansion, or as they call it, league, brought more and more people. The game was unfortunately becoming more and more infamous for new players. You see, with the base of the game rooted in Diablo 2 with an old school mentality, the game and the mechanics were very unforgiving. You see, there is no game manual for Path of Exile. There's no guide from the developer on what is a vendor recipe or how mechanics interact with each other. There's not even a confirmation on whether it is featured or a bug, right? Everything that is available is based off data mining and the community discovering things. Like, that is insane. Imagine playing Dota 2, but all you got was a base level item and no recipe that tells you what you need. You had to gamble selling these items to see if it does anything. Path of Exile has a lot of skill trees and ascendancies and strategies and mechanics. Too much to cover, and it's been done a million times before. But to explain things for you, there are 10 chapters for the campaign, and once you're done with that, you completed the tutorial. Most new players quit in Act 1, the first chapter of the game. Like, you don't even know what is going on in the story in Act 1. Never mind on how to play the game or what it has to offer. You kind of figure out these things after Act 8, Act 9. So, for a game to survive with little to almost no new blood, you have to appreciate this die-hard loyalty. When Path of Exile 2 was released, this changed. They literally went from hiding everything in the shadows and being secretive to outright having support gems telling you, nope, I don't go in there and I won't work. Like, that won't work at all. But the game is so much more difficult compared to its predecessor. The gameplay is much slower and the game plays much slower compared and hits much harder. However, due to the simplicity of this straightforward brutality, new players can actually understand the game, right? Streamers and content creators who play games for a living, who has carefully stepped around this Path of Exile game, now shifted their channels to mainly focus on this content. YouTube Creator Studio even advises you on making videos for Path of Exile 2. To have so much success, the gatekeeper of the internet, aka Google, YouTube, and your Android mind hive, all just scream Path of Exile 2. That's pretty dank. Like, they took down their inspiration in a tweet off. The student finally becoming the master, but not the Anakin villain arc, the Obi-Wan way, the epic way. However, this flood of new players and content creators alike, there are a lot of emotions going around. And it's clearly starting to show. Path of Exile 2 has been held up on a pedestal for far too long, and players have finally started to crack under the white little lies. Diving into these cracks, we can start with the community. Due to the complexity of the game as well as the type of player Path of Exile 1 attracts, doing builds and content guides in this community can be very difficult. the community will rip you a new one if you don't line up with their stolen views, and sometimes they take this too far. To the point where the worst thing about Path of Exile is the community itself. A lot of new content creators popped up with the early access launch of Path of Exile 2. Recently, DS Lily, who was well established and trusted pillar in the community, made a video for new players warning them about content creators who use heavy clickbait titles. The concern here is that new players will be baited into builds that they will spend time and effort grinding for gear and upgrades to build a build that is bad, giving them a bad experience, and this will cause them to quit the game. Now, let's get this out of the way. The Path of Exile community has a fetish for spreadsheets. They are very public about it, but in a very subtle way. And like a pineapple party or swinger party, don't look at the other guy's pickle salad. Don't look at their fetish too much. You see, Path of Exile community loves to geek out on how much divines is needed to make the most perfect gear and build that is absolutely min-maxed to the extreme. Now, to explain something here, there's no real precise way to get exactly what you want when it comes to stats. Basically, everything is a gamble on multiple levels. So yeah, there are deterministic ways to do this, but no one can guarantee you exactly how many times you need to do this or roll the dice before you hit the magic number. This is a gambling house, hidden in a spreadsheet masquerading as a game, essentially. So, the Path of Exile community has taken it upon themselves to protect their niche community by gatekeeping for new bro. So, when you find someone new making content and not following your official, unofficial guide, what you do is you don't pull them aside and welcome them with open and loving arms, as they are quite literally breathing life into your game that you love and basically pays your bills. Explain to them what's the do's and don'ts while offering them an olive branch to work together to have greater audience reach. No, no. This is way too wholesome for the community. What the standard SOP is, you make a video where you trash them and their builds, explaining how using clickbait titles on YouTube is bad, and you are trash channel for this? Because you will make new players follow a bad build that will have a bad experience and make them quit the game. Okay. This will be followed by other community members to back you up and confirm what you said is plus minus right, and they should feel bad for it. That being said, the number one thing pushing new players from the game is a lack of build guides for beginners. Everything is so min-maxed that players open the build guides, look at it and go, nope, not today, Satan, and moves on. And what about build guides? What would a build guide be without path of building? So basically, you overcomplicate the game to such an extent that new players will have no hope of being comfortable. Combine that with a community that demands build guides that are so detailed that it even explains when and how to breathe, shit, and eat, because you need to have fun the way they tell you to, otherwise you're wrong. Again, stolen the conversation. Okay, look, maybe not that bad, but it is so bad that content creators have actively been reminding people that whatever they do, they need to have fun. Like, I shit you not. There are also the same people that do build reviews for sometimes new players and tell them that they are better off playing Diablo because they are too dumb for this game. Again, stolen. So, why is the community so toxic? The number one talk on everyone's lips, right? Well, that has to do with this guy, Jonathan Rogers. A lot of people play Diablo 2. A lot of them enjoyed the simplistic nature of the game. while still having to offer more. Path of Exile 2 represents that. A place for both new players and hardcore players. This was the promise that the game director of Path of Exile 2, Jonathan Rogers, made on the pre-launch. Recently, there's a lot of backlash from the community, as a lot of old players hate the slower gameplay from Path of Exile 2. Players feel like the game is not respecting their time. This is largely from slow gameplay and a lack of crafting for gear. This is worse considering that gear progression is far more important in Path of Exile 2 compared to Path of Exile 1. Scaling defenses largely comes from gear, as there is no life nodes on the tree. Thus, you need a combination of life and energy shield, as armor is out and you can only stack a small amount of HP and scale the rest from energy shield. This alongside with heavy cost into respec to finalize your character that is clearly outrageous, the cost itself. Yeah, we can understand why these people are so upset. So, we get it. The game is new, it's different, and not exactly what you wanted. Now, with the honeymoon phase gone, it's starting to show. Luckily, this won't brew too long, as the army from GGG has returned from their holiday break, and new patches are bound to land soon. But why is this so relevant? Why are we still swirling digital lanes to hop onto Path of Exile 2 hype train? Why are we still getting flooded with Path of Exile 2 in our feed? Well, Grinding Gear Games have released Path of Exile 2 as a closed testing, meaning you need to fork out some money for a supporter pack in order to gain access to this alpha testing, or wait until the game finally released in a year-ish time. With the majority of their fanbase being drawn into the free-to-play model, everyone is watching and viewing to find out if the game is worth it. I mean, the supporter pack is like $30, right? And not everybody's got that money. With content videos currently flooding on a new best broken build and bingo sheet for buffs and nerfs, content creators are enjoying the swarms of onlookers. Everyone buzzing with questions and almost like they are never really getting an answer, but they're getting something. Well, why not? Why not just answer the question? Path of Exile 2 has had one of the most successful launches of our era. The game is incredible. The best part is, the game is still in early access. Half the campaign is still missing, that we know of, right? More than half the classes are not released, and more ascendancies to come. With the army of content creators uploading daily and many people switching over from different game genres, we can agree that the content is plentiful, it's engaging, and people are truly enjoying the game. But is the game worth it? I think the question needs to be better phrased. Is the game worth it to you, my dear purchaser? And this is where we start getting things done. Recently, before Christmas, we had a patch that disabled the cost on frost builds that players were using. They had to completely reset the build. In some cases, they had to make brand new characters. This combined with the gameplay difficulty and lack of guides that has the community in uproar because it's not what they used to. Additionally, this is where Path of Exile 1 failed. Build guides. Guides are usually very thorough and scrutinized if not completely min-maxed. But this is a game where nothing is guaranteed and stats are based on roll, meaning you play a gamble match of odds. Detailed enough that most new players are too scared to even start to engage or try the game because of the build guide. But with the community hellbent on min-maxing builds, they must be very knowledgeable, right? This should help form an opinion and answers to this wonderful question. Well, you see, not exactly. You see, even the most hardcore player from the Path of Exile community has the following saying: why make a build if I have someone making it for me? Most players don't know how to make their own builds, or how the game interacts on a fundamental level. This, laced with their ever-loving hate to despise change, a perfect toxic soup that does not cater for new players. The recent debacle on social media points this out. Instead of welcoming new creators and explaining the ground rules of no clickbait titles, instead of dressing down on a public stage under the pretense of watching out for the new bro, again, just Stalin. Stalin the conversation. Actually, let's just spend a minute here, okay? Let's break this down. So, you have one channel that's got 50k viewers, okay, or subscribers. Making a trashing video, right, or a trash talking video on a different channel that has 1.28 million subscribers because they recently joined your content field and because you don't like the way that they do their titles. Now, if YouTube was not based on clickbait, sure, but clickbait is the last thing you have to worry about when it comes to new players. Your builds do not cater for new players, to the extent that new players leave when they see it. Stalin, because of a popular opinion, might not resonate? Well, shit. This brings us to the ultimate answer. The reason why no one can really answer if it's worth it is because everyone is extremely biased. The new player experience is completely ignored and chalked up as they are dumb and need to go play Diablo. Pair this with the hard-ass Stalin view, you kind of see how this whole decision backfired, right? The reality is the game leaves much to be improved and desired. Yes, it's a really good game for a game that is in early access. Improvements are rolling in, and a lot more time and effort and screw-ups are gonna roll in with it. So, is the game worth the gamble? Yeah, I think it's worth the gamble. Is the game good? No. The content is good, the gameplay is great, but there's a long road still ahead. So right now, the game is not even qualifying for a game. The last hit on it is, Path of Exile 2 might play slower than Path of Exile 1, it might have different game design implementations, but it's really just the same game at base level. A DLC with interface updates. So if you didn't like Path of Exile 1, you probably will have the same issue with Path of Exile 2. It's like comparing two different wines to someone who's not a connoisseur. Thus lies the problem. If we judge it by a standard one-size-fits-all measurement, it's not that great, but better than most releases you'll find available on the market, right? That's a fair view. And people are afraid to say it, as the resulting backlash have them counting their words. Again, Stalin. So ultimately, do you want a game experience that resembles the Joseph Stalin Russia, where if you complain about something that is fundamentally wrong, you can either be promoted or hanged, while enjoying an early access game that ain't too bad itself? Then yeah, this might be the game for you. And if you can't wait and have the money to spend, I'd say do it. It's worth the gamble. But if you find yourself unsure, just hovering like, maybe, maybe not, you already made up your mind, you're just trying to convince yourself for shitty reasons. Just wait for the game to get released and play it for free, okay? Anyways, I hope this brings you up to speed on Path of Exile 2, the hype surrounding it, and most importantly, I hope this helped you make your decision on whether or not to buy the game. So, if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing on YouTube, leaving a comment. Also, throw us a follow over on Twitch, as it really helps us out a lot, and it's completely free. Appreciate it. Love you guys. Cheers.